Welcome to Simple Wonders, where I help you simplify home education so you can work wonders in your home. I'm Jessica, a homeschooling mom of 4 boys, here to guide you through the first steps of starting your homeschool journey. In this series, you'll learn how to get started, what you actually need to homeschool, and you'll develop real teaching skills, even if you've never taught a day in your life. I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to my How to Homeschool series. This is the last video, number 10. By this point, you should have a pretty good idea of how to homeschool and be set up and ready to homeschool in the fall or whenever you are starting this series. Now, this last video, I just want to take some time to talk about the 3 most common pain points or problems that moms face when homeschooling and give some final advice. So the first thing that I've noticed, and this goes back to the atmosphere, discipline, and life that Charlotte Mason said are the 3 instruments. And I've noticed that they're very similar to parenting and very similar to just homeschooling in general. The first thing is atmosphere. Sometimes when the atmosphere of our home gets out of place, maybe you prioritize prioritize lessons more than you'd prioritize your child as a person. When we start to think of the lessons as more important, or we are teaching lessons instead of teaching people, then the atmosphere in our home gets off and our children resist learning. When they feel like they are not seen, when they don't feel like they are being treated as a person, then they resist. They become a little bit more oppositional. And so the biggest thing that I've found is that my boys will be a little bit upset with me. They'll feel some resentment and they will push against me. There'll be some counter will. They won't want to do what I'm asking them to do. So what I found the antidote to this is to really step away from lessons. Maybe you could do this during your rest week, but make time with your child a priority. Strengthen your bond with them. One of my favorite quotes by Dr. Gordon Neufeld is that the way to a child's mind is through their heart. Isn't that the most perfect quote? I feel like I need to make a print of that and put it in my house, hang it up somewhere where I can remember that the way to our child's mind is through their heart. A child is going to remember more how they felt during their school, maybe more so than what they actually learned. So if you feel like your child has a lot of counter will, if they don't want to do lessons, if they just don't enjoy it, look at your own relationship. How is your attachment to them? How is their attachment to you? The next thing with atmosphere is relationship with the world around them. Do they see a purpose in learning? Have they had some time to live in the real world, to do real cooking, to do experiments, to do real life projects, to see this learning is important and to form relationships with real things and with the real world around them. I have found when they live in the real world, doing real things, real projects, they start to see a purpose in learning how to read, in learning their multiplication, learning fractions, and learning how to find a perimeter, learning how to multiply and do money. And so that is one of the biggest things, is look at the atmosphere of your home. Are you doing a lot of real world things, or is it all artificial, all your learning just in lessons? How is your relationship with your child? And go from there. The next common pain point I found is that kids get really frustrated with their lessons. There's tears, they don't want to do math, and they are feeling overwhelmed. Really what it comes down to is, especially if they're crying, you can tell that they do want to please you, they do want to do the lessons, they just feel overwhelmed. They're super frustrated. With these skill-based subjects like math or phonics, reading, they are missing something. Now I've talked about many times that education is a discipline and we need to learn things line upon line. So starting at this skill and solidifying that and the understanding before we move on to the next skill or the next concept. And so if there's a lot of frustration with a certain subject, like say math, then I would recommend taking a step back and going backwards to the next skill that they learned and solidifying that one until it is easy and they have a really good understanding before you move on to the next one. And the same thing would go for reading. Now, I start teaching my boys how to read like at 5 or 6 years old. Very simple, very child-led. So we're learning the sounds of letters and we're making them in the air. And we do that, and it's always if they want to. Usually at 5, I notice that they want to learn to read because we read books aloud so often. They want that power, that ability to read their own books that they want whenever they want. And so I start by teaching them the sounds of the letters. Now, sometimes it'll be 6 months before they want to move on to the next group of letters. Sometimes it's just 2 months. We are moving at their pace. We are solidifying one thing before we move on to the next. You don't know exactly, no one can tell you either, when your child will be developmentally ready for the next stage. Your child will know. And so when they feel ready and confident and it's easy, move on to the next thing. If it becomes frustrating and difficult and there's tears, move backward. Move back to the concept right before this and work on that. Or maybe take a break. We have this idea that we can't take breaks. We can't take rests. We can't do that because we have to always be moving forward, and we have a certain pace that we have to follow because most of us grew up in a public school where we were all put into a box, just pushed and shaped into this box of this schedule that we have to learn certain concepts at certain times. And then we move on, and you have to move on whether you're ready or not. That is a public school concept because it has to be efficient. We have to move on no matter what. We don't have to do that in our home. If your child's frustrated, if there are tears, they can't understand this concept, take a break. Wait a few months, maybe even 6 months, and introduce it again. In that time, they will have matured. I have done this a few times, just a handful of times with my 3 boys so far. And it's a miracle worker, really, when you either go backwards or you take a break and then you try that concept again. Another thing with discipline is that you may not have, or your child may not have good habits. So if they have been at public school and they have, or any school, or maybe even homeschool, and they have developed a bad habit of not attending to the task at hand. So they have the habit of daydreaming. They have the habit of procrastinating. Then that's going to be a big pain point for you as a mom trying to teach them, and for them eventually if they don't have the habit of being able to pay attention to the task at hand. So if you notice a lot of dawdling, if you notice a lot of procrastinating, or just, you're sitting there doing a lesson for 20 minutes and they still don't know what's going on, or they're taking a long time, then you need to go back to the beginning and start with, 5 or less minute lessons, and they are required to pay attention that whole time. Once they do that, then you add a minute or two for another week until they can get up to 15 to 20 minutes attending to a lesson. Ideally, by the time they're in high school, they can attend for 30 or more minutes for at least their reading, their history books and stuff. So that is, again, something that's so important. It's a foundational skill, is being able to pay attention and focus. The key is to go down to 2 or 3 minutes and just say, okay, we're going to only do math for 3 minutes today. But the requirement is that you pay attention or you work on your problems for the full 3 minutes, and then we'll be done. So that's discipline. That is one of the most important things that you can do, is have the habit of attention, and then be able to recognize there's frustration and tears. We need to move backward a step, or we need to pause and let my child's mind develop and mature so they're ready for the next level or the next concept. Now, the last thing is life or living ideas. Let's say your children do not want to do history. They hate history. They don't want to do geography. They don't want to do literature, or whatever it is. Think about those two things. If it's maybe they don't want to be around you, maybe they're just upset with you, maybe you've been kind of grumpy to them, whatever it is, maybe it's too hard for them. In the case of history, it might be that the book is too hard of a reading. It's just above their reading level, their comprehension level. The other thing that it might be, if they're resisting lessons, is that the book is just plain boring. This is a common problem. We grew up doing history, or we grew up in public schools with history textbooks that were as dry as dirt, or as Charlotte Mason said, like sawdust to our digestive system. There's nothing to pull out of it, and it really is painful to try to digest. So I would recommend looking at the book and reading it yourself. Does your mind start wandering after less than a page? Is it boring? Don't make your child read it. Look for a different book. Look for a book that is written in a narrative form, or is has living ideas, as Charlotte Mason would say. I have so many book recommendations on my website, in my curriculum guides, and I have a video showing you and giving you examples of what a really dry, boring book is versus a living book, just to give you an idea. So if your child is resisting school, they hate school, look at the books that you're using, or curriculum. If it's a curriculum, so if your child is resisting school, they hate their history, they hate this, look at the books you're using or at the curriculum. Is the curriculum written by some random people and they have taken Wikipedia excerpts and they've taken little quotes from here and here and here, and they've just made their own curriculum that you read to your child, which I've had a curriculum like that there's a script for the parent to read. You know, back in ancient Egypt, the people built pyramids at this date, and they built it out of this because they wanted to bury their dead. So boring. And no wonder why your child doesn't want to listen. It was not written by a person who is an author. It's not written by a person who is passionate about ancient Egypt. And so there's no passion, there's nothing, no living ideas, and they don't like it. I don't like that. I don't like reading it to them either. So look at your curriculum. Is it written by someone who's just an amateur writer, or even that, if it's just a mom who is taking Wikipedia things and kind of hodgepodge things together into a curriculum? Or does your curriculum use books? If it does use books, which is ideal, are the books interesting? Are they written in a narrative form? Is it one author who is really good at writing? Do they write it in a story form or a narrative form that is interesting to listen to? Or if it is, perhaps the book is a little over your child's head. Maybe look for a different book on the same topic that might be more at their comprehension level. So those, in my opinion, are the three major pain points when homeschooling. Either the atmosphere is off, your child isn't forming a good relationship with you, or maybe they're not having opportunities to form relationship with the world around them, with real things, real experiences and opportunities. Number two, maybe they have not solidified the skills needed for the more advanced concepts or the advanced skills that you're trying to teach them, and it's frustrating. It's overworking their brain. Or they might have a bad habit of not paying attention, and they're not able to attend to the task, and it's taking them a long time to do what they need to do, and then they get bored and tired. Or it could be that the curriculum is really boring. This happens a lot. There are many curriculum out there that are written in a way that is just not living. It is a script that the parent reads and the child tunes out after a minute. Look for a curriculum with books, and not just any books, but books that are written in a story form, because this is the way that our brain works. We crave stories. It's how we learn about, or it's how we really process the world, is through the form of a story. So look for those good books if your child is really just hating their schoolwork. Now, my last word of advice for you is to simplify. Don't think that because one mom is teaching Latin and she's doing classical composers, and they are all the kids are doing violin and ballet, and they never leave the house, but they're doing all of these amazing things. You don't need to do that. Find out what kind of mom you are. Maybe you're the type of mom that loves to cuddle up and read a book with your kids and then listen to their narration. Maybe you don't like to do the handicrafts. Maybe you aren't musically talented. Maybe you're not a science person. That's okay. Figure out what kind of mom or teacher you are. What are your talents? And do that. Bless your children's lives with the talents that you have. I truly believe that God has handpicked us and our children and put us together for a reason. Figure out what that reason is. And rely on people in the community to help teach the subjects that you are not great at. You could find a co-op. You could put together a co-op. You can go out on Facebook and ask people, hey, anyone in this area really good at science? Maybe a retired scientist or an engineer can come and do a few science experiments that are hard for you to do. I do that. I have failed many science experiments, and I finally said, you know what? I'm going to find a scientist or a retired scientist, an engineer, and there are a lot of them, to come and help me with a few of these experiments that are way too complicated, way too difficult for me to do. In exchange, I will teach your child music, or maybe I'll bake you some bread. There are so many ways that you can outsource some of your kids' learning to other people, and in exchange, you can share your talents with them. In fact, I am just starting a co-op. In the fall, me and a few other moms are putting together a group to do this exact thing. We all have different talents, and we are going to come together and share those talents once a week and enrich our children, enrich ourselves. And so look for people that can help you in ways that maybe you need help. Could be tutoring math, could be doing science experiments, could be teaching music. It could be looking over your child's essay and giving them feedback on grammar and writing tactics. And finally, get out and don't be in your house all the time. I think this happened a lot during COVID, where they think homeschool means you got to be in the house, but we spend a very little amount of time actually doing our lessons. We spend about 3 hours total doing school in the morning, and then we're done. And if we have an opportunity for a field trip or a play date, then we're going to do our floor goal, which I talked about in one of my original videos, where you want to have your very basic, like the most important things we do every day. We will do our floor goal, and then we're going to go out and play with friends, or we're going to go on a field trip. We're going to go to these community events or these special classes at the nature center instead of doing, the full feast of school for that day. Don't be afraid to drop school and go do something fun, or do the bare minimum and go do something fun or engaging that your children will enjoy. And on days when things are not going well, don't be afraid to just go out and play. This is something that I wish I had known. When things were going awry, maybe your children are having a bad day, maybe you're having a bad day. It's maybe that time of the month. We don't talk about that enough as moms. During your female cycle, you're going to have different hormones. You're going to have different things that are affecting your mood. And so being able to recognize, I'm not having a great day. We're going to do our floor goal today, and then we're going to go to a park with friends, or just a park by ourselves, and you guys are going to go play, and I'm just going to sit here and read a book or just hold the baby. So don't be afraid to do that. Your children are getting much more learning done in that small amount of time than they would at school, because they're learning the habit of attention. They're getting one-on-one time with you, and they are narrating and retrieving regularly to keep up their learning. You are doing a great job. You need to give yourself a break and take a break sometimes with your children. Don't feel like you have to do it all. So I hope that this series was helpful. If you have any suggestions or comments, I would love to hear them, because eventually I will probably redo this series. I would love to get some feedback. And you can always subscribe to my email. I will be occasionally putting out an email newsletter just to keep things up and to keep in touch with my mama friends out there. So if you want to keep in touch with me, my email newsletter link is in the description box below. Please let me know how this series helped you, what you liked about it, maybe what you didn't like, what you'd like to see different. Thank you so much, and good luck with homeschooling.